Yay! Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here. I know if you guys are making your way on into the call right now as we speak, but we are here today with Aaron, and he is from the company Let's Go Learn. And the reason why we have Aaron with us today is because they have some amazing assessments, and we are giving them today the best resource award for their Adam and Noma assessments. And I have to say, I absolutely have loved using the assessments from Let's Go Learn. When I first started tutoring, I had my own reading assessments, but then as I had clients asking me about math tutoring, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really don't have anything for math, and to be able to find out, where are the gaps and how can I fill them and all of that kind of stuff. So I ended up finding Let's Go Learn from another tutoring group, and I started downloading the Adam. I got it all set on up. I had my students take it, and then from there, the coolest part happened because there was this diagnostic assessment, you guys, that gave me all of the details that I needed. It told me exactly which areas the students were above grade level in, they below grade level, and it even gave resources on things that I could do with my students to help close the gap in that area. And I was just so impressed with this tool that I decided, let's give these people the best resource award because it is that awesome. So today I have with me Aaron. Let's welcome Aaron. Woo!
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. How's everyone doing today? I know we have a few people still trickling in, and I do appreciate it. But overall, on behalf of Let's Go Learn, we do appreciate, and we're excited to be here today. And overall, our promise to you is to continue to build the best diagnostic reading and math assessments, as well as instructional components, so that as a tutor, you can bring a lot of value to your individual practice. But as Joanne said, to really identify those strengths and weaknesses of the students, so then you can take those next steps with those individual students, and you have a lot of great information at your disposal to be able to help them.
Yeah, and it is absolutely invaluable information. And when you end up just honing in on those specific areas that your kiddos
Definitely.
need help in, and then you give them that instruction, it is so cool to see what the results are when you give that assessment again. And you're like, oh my gosh, they've gone up a full grade level in that area, or they've gone up 2 or 3 grade levels in that area. So it's a really, really great tool. So we have some people coming on in that want to say hello. We've got Antoinette here. Hey, Antoinette. Hello. Hi, we've got Stina in the house. Woo, woo. Hey, Stina. We are so glad that you guys came to join us, and you're going to be glad. You're going to want to stay here. Don't leave, you guys, because today we are going to be giving away some free things. So we're going to be giving some free assessments today for those of you that are live on the call. So make sure you stay with us. And if at any point in time you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them into the comment box, and I will ask away so that your questions get answered as well.
And Joanne, I think you touched on a really good point about having the assessment completed, identifying those strengths and weaknesses, targeting those strengths and weaknesses, and then the second assessment, it is really exciting so that you're able to see how did they grow, and then sharing that information with the individual students and conference them in, and also with the parents. It really, it's a great value added, and also it kind of builds up a lot of confidence for those individual kiddos that maybe they're coming to you for a specific reason. So you touched on it very perfectly.
Well, and I have to say, it does amazing things as well for your tutoring business, because when the parents can see the exact gap that their child had, and then they can see that the gap was closed because of the tutoring that they received, they now value your services even more, and they start referring your business over and over again to people, and they start talking about you to the teachers and all of that great stuff. So just amazing things can happen when you have a tool that gives you the kinds of information that these tools give. Now, you guys, you were telling me last week about the history of like how this all got started. Can you share with us how your got started?
So first and foremost, we did start off as a diagnostic assessment. So our current CEO and co-founder, he was helping out his son to learn how to read. So he started doing a lot of research on what it took to be an effective reader. And when you start researching this, there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that have to fall into place. You know, you have your sight words, word recognition, your phonics, comprehension, vocabulary. All of these have to work in unison in order to be an effective reader. And in math is very similar, where you have to have a lot of pieces of the puzzle to build up on top of each other. So our co-founder, he's a very avid in karate, so he likes to practice it. And so he was practicing one day with one of his friends, Dr. Rich McCollum, and they started talking a little bit and about his goal about creating some sort of assessment. And Dr. Rick McCollum, our other co-founder, he said, "Richard, do you know what I do?" And well, you do something with reading. But the long story short, Dr. Rick McCollum, who recently retired from Cal at Berkeley, he teaches reading specialists. So essentially, they got together and they created a fantastic program, which is called DORA, Diagnostic Online Reading Assessment, that will figure out the strengths and weaknesses of their students. So it's almost essentially you have a reading specialist in a box. And from there, we decided to expand to math. And from there, we expanded later to incorporate some instructional components as well.
Very cool. And tell us about some of those instructional components that you guys have built in.
Definitely. And that's why I preface it. First and foremost, we are a diagnostic assessment, and we are standalone. So as some of you have seen, we have a lot of data at our disposal, either reading or in math. So what we do is we analyze that information and create a custom lesson plan for each individual student. So heaven forbid, if you have a fifth grader, maybe who's struggling with decoding, when the students go into our instructional component, they will start with those gaps. So for that students is decoding, I would like to say that is a supplemental component. So having a great tutor in first and foremost, identifying it and then working direct instruction, and then maybe incorporate some of our instructional components on top of it is kind of the name of the game to get that twofold approach to helping out your students.
Absolutely. Awesome. And that's a beautiful thing that we get to do as tutors is we get to choose those resources that we want to be able to utilize with our students. And it's so awesome because in the school system, we always were dictated what programs we needed to use. And we were told that we had to stick to program fidelity and we had to teach it exactly the way it was scripted so that, that the program could work itself out. And we weren't really allowed to meet the individual needs of our students. And now as tutors, I think this is the most beautiful part about what we get to do is we get to be able to pick and choose those different resources that are going to close the gap in the certain areas that they need to close the gap. So it's awesome that you guys have developed some resources to be able to do that. And even with, I found some other resources too that while they are, a lot of them are different programs like HeadSprout or those kinds of programs. They work well when they are in unison with a tutor, because sometimes the kids will just like push those buttons and do that, and they're really not getting a lot out of their tutoring time if they're just using those kinds of materials. But to be able to use them in conjunction with a tutor actually can be really, really helpful. So definitely take a look at some of those instructional resources. And you guys have actually created, when I was taking a look at the assessment data that I had, there were even like lessons that I could click on to go to for like Khan Academy. And then there were like practice items and videos and all of that kind of stuff. How did you guys incorporate all of that into this?
So definitely, and actually recently we upgraded our DORA reports to incorporate some more prescriptive information. So now when you go in, after a student completes a DORA assessment and goes into a detailed report, starting off with reading, of course, we actually give you a really contextually based report based off of the individual student. And not only that, they're also their grade. So if, going back to my previous example, if you do have a fifth grade student who is suffering in decoding, well, what does it mean to be a fifth grader and be suffering in decoding? And give some of those recommendations. So as tutors, you have already a head start. Now, going back to what we were talking about as far as some of those Khan Academy videos. So first and foremost, we're identifying the strengths and weaknesses of the student using either our ADAM assessment, which stands for Adaptive Diagnostic Assessment of Mathematics, or one of our 2 DOMA assessments, which come in pre-algebra and algebra. And as soon as we figure out those gaps that the students may show, we actually tie those in to a Khan Academy video. And those Khan Academy videos can be available when the student logs into their Let's Go Learn account. And once again, it will we color code them specifically on those who are high need or as a need that they're approaching the need as well. So we had a great we have some great people here doing some educational work of tying in the assessment with the supplemental instruction, either being Khan Academy, which is of course free for the tutors, or the instructional component. However, the only reason we're able to do that, and it goes without saying, is our assessments are criterion based. And what that means is that we're looking at the individual skills necessary for a student to be proficient in reading or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what I appreciate probably the most about it. And coming from the classroom myself, it was it was just ingrained that you want to know exactly what skills that they know, which ones do they need to master, and now having that information, it just makes such a huge difference. So if you guys are just joining us now, I'm here with Aaron. He's from Let's Go Learn, and they are the recipients of the Best Resource Award. Woo! For online tutors and teachers. And what's cool about Let's Go Learn is that they have these assessments that you can give a student to find out exactly where the gaps are in their reading or their math. And then they have instructional plans and different resources and tools that you can access and you can utilize as well. And it's just an overall really awesome tool and resource to have at your fingertips. Now stay tuned, because we are going to be giving away some free tests today. So you want to be able to stay tuned. Now, if you're catching this on the replay, make sure to hit like on this video. If you are watching it on YouTube, please hit subscribe so that you can always stay up to date on the best resources for online tutors. So, you know, I love that when we started talking, you were talking about how your company is kind of very similar to ours, because you have people who live all over the country that work. Tell us how that works for you guys.
No, definitely. So with the exception of our engineering team, we all are dispersed throughout the United States. So starting with our engineers, they live in Arcata, California, which is up north near the Oregon border. However, we do have success people that work all throughout the United States. So we have a great individual by the name of Lily Rivas. She lives in New Jersey. She supports a lot of our New Jersey customers. And we also have people living in Arizona. So we have Onawa, who lives in Arizona, and she does really great with tutoring companies as well as distance learning communities. I actually live in Sacramento, California. So all of us, we all live in different parts. So, you know, having that communication, and kind of like we're doing right now, having those Skypes and having video conferencing is really important to us to ensure that we are working correctly with together.
Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, there's nothing like having that mobile business, right?
Absolutely.
You can be anywhere and still do your job and be able to bring in the income, but then you just have so much more freedom and flexibility, which is so fun to add into the mix.
Absolutely.
So we want to know what questions you guys have. So type them on in and ask away. While you guys are typing, I am going to be giving away the very first set. Now in here, the winner of the certificate gets 2 single-use DORA assessments and 2 single-use ADAM K7 assessments. So you're given both reading assessments and math assessments. So our very first winner is, drum roll please. I'm terrible at drum rolls. All right, it is Stina Schmidt. Woo! Stina is our big first winner, and she will be receiving those that assessment information, I will email you, Stina, so that you can download them and you can have access to them. So congratulations. And I've got two more of these. I've got two more of these to give away. So if you are on here with us, let us know either by asking a question, just saying hey, or congratulations, or whatever you guys want to say. We would glad to have you on here. So yeah, so it's really cool when you get to, I get to honor companies like yours that are really out there to benefit the students and their individual needs, just like Let's Go Learn does with these assessments. What are some of the things that other tutoring companies that you guys have worked with, what has been their experience, or some of the powerful things that they have said about how useful these tools have been?
No, definitely. We work with tutoring companies as small as an individual person in getting up and going, as big as, a tutoring company that hires multiple tutors. And there are some great things that they do. And I kind of alluded to them a little bit, that it just creates a lot of value to what you do.
Yeah.
And I know some of the other tutoring companies, they want to interface a lot with individual schools that the students work with. So sometimes what they'll do is they will come in to the individual school, have a meeting either with, the principal, vice principal, whoever the contact person is, and share some of that information with them. Having, open communication, some tutors really, really want that and want to have that bilateral communication. So some of the tutors, they will show off the data, show off what they've done, and show off, if possible, some of the pre and post test scores to show how the students are doing. But also the tricky thing is that the awesome thing that they do is, do you see this with your student? With Johnny, we noticed that there was some deficiency with, let's say, high frequency words, or sight words, as we call them.
Yeah.
That change. Do you see any substantial changes? And once you see that, yes, we do. Once again, it starts getting to that referrals, referring them to that tutoring agency. But, first and foremost, it's all about that value and knowing those individual needs for the individual students. But yeah, just creating that individual value is, I think, what a lot of the tutoring companies will start with. And, what the other thing that, and I think I told you this previously, what some tutoring companies do when you start building up your tutors is they actually start hosting trainings at the individual school sites and invite the individual administrators and the teachers in just to show off, what we're doing here at our tutoring company. We're here to help our students and really take them to the next step for filling those gaps.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing that we're all here as a team, really tutoring is a tier 3 intervention. And so while it may not be an in-school tier 3 intervention, it is a tier 3 intervention. And
absolutely.
And some kids need the one-on-one versus, the small group instruction that most schools are able to provide. But a lot of schools don't have the ability to provide that tier 3 one-on-one instruction for a child, so that they can really close in and hone in on those gaps. And so we can work as a team to be able to do that with different schools, and it's really, really exciting. And so it's so cool that there's, do you guys have tutoring agencies that are using these assessments? Are there any schools that are using these assessments as well?
No, definitely. And I think that's why, we are so popular with a lot of schools as well as tutoring agencies, because we provide it not only to tutoring agencies, to schools, nonprofits, for-profits, but also directly to the parents as well. We're able to provide it to a wide variety of people so they can leverage that information. So we also have, outside of, tutoring agencies and direct to parents, a lot of great schools, and kind of like you were explaining, where they have a RTI initiative. And they want to figure out, what are the next steps? Or they might have some ESL students that they need to take the next steps with, or really identify what their gaps are. Because being a criterion assessment, it's really helpful that we're just looking at the individual skills and it's not tied to any other instruction or anything else. So, we have a lot of great work done in Southern California as well. Our success person there, Alicia, she used to be a former teacher as well. And she transitioned to be able to help individual schools out in the LA area. So, we're really happy to have her there, as well as helping out all those individual students as well down there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I have to say, like, all of the other criterion-based assessments that I've seen in my lifetime as a teacher, this is the one assessment that gives me the most useful data.
Definitely.
A lot of like the state assessments that the kids have to take, it doesn't give you enough data, especially the forms that are sent home to like the students. It's like, okay, they're struggling in comprehension. Really? Well, maybe it's because they can't decode.
Yep.
Right? Like if you know, like my daughter's state assessment came home and it said she was struggling in social studies. And I was thinking, well, maybe it's because she actually is struggling a little bit with reading, and nonfiction is harder to read. So obviously she's going to struggle with the social studies part because she probably had to read it, and she's struggling a little bit more with the reading aspect, right? So really, does that give, good data on where she's at with her social studies knowledge, or is it really checking her reading skills? Right. So there's that combo thing that's happening there, and that's not really useful. Yeah. I really like being able to give the assessments one-on-one with the child with me. I know like the Adam assessment can take about like 2 hours to do that. But I love to be able to take it with them, and like I split it into like 2 sessions. And you guys have made it so easy to stop at one point and then just pick it up the next time, which is so useful. So what I've been able to do then is I'll be sitting here with my notebook and my pen. I'm like, okay, what kinds of questions am I noticing that they're getting correct? Which ones are they not getting right? Because sometimes, even though you're looking at like the data that comes afterwards, there's sometimes not the same kind of like click of, oh, well, what kind of question was that? Like if there's a time question, right? Was it elapsed time? Was it being able to add and subtract time? Was it, what kind of time question was it that they were specifically learning? Was it being able to read a clock? That kind of information is so useful. So I always like have on my little thing, strengths, weaknesses, and like all their strengths, like which kinds of questions are they answering really well? What are the weakness areas? And then I use my anecdotal notes and I compare it then with that assessment data. Yeah.
Very cool.
And that's then how I then come up with a plan to be able to help my students and guide them as I create an instructional plan for them. And that's really what we're doing, right? We're creating IEPs for each of these kids with this data.
Absolutely.
And even though it's not like the special ed IEP, it is an individualized educational plan that we're coming up with to be able to close their gaps. So,
and it's funny that you actually mentioned IEP, because one of the interesting things that's happened here at Let's Go Learn is we've had a lot of ESL departments, a lot of special needs departments, reach out to us directly. And it could just be the individual teacher that's purchasing it for her individual cohort of students. But because they need to do this, they need to create these IEPs, sometimes they're left with, well, what do I say? What kind of narratives do I use? And, Let's Go Learn, we actually provide some brief narratives that you can actually copy and paste or modify depending on your students. So using that information, and also, as you said, using that information of when the students are actually in the trenches assessing, putting those two pieces of the puzzle together. Develops a really rich narrative that you can share with, like I said, with the students as well as teachers, as well as parents. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would think too, like if you're trying to like group kids by certain needs, you're able to do that a little bit more effectively when you put those 2 pieces together. Yeah.
So within the DORA assessment, we do have these great profiles that we rank students from A through H. And we rank them as low or medium and high in decoding, vocabulary, and comprehension. So as a tutor, if you're working with, let's say, even 5 students, you're able to see already which students you can group together to receive similar content. And we do the same thing with Adam, our math assessment. You're able to put students together with like groups of having the same instructional starting points. So that's really important, because then you're spending more time with the students and less time analyzing data, because we give you that information for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you guys also have an algebra algebra assessment as well. Tell us about that.
Definitely. So our pre-algebra and algebra assessments, of course, they were built a while back ago before Common Core. So going back to the same methodology, we are criterion based, so we're looking at the individual skills. However, instead of a grade level equivalency, we rank students as proficient, partial proficient, as well as mastery. So, from where the rubber meets the road, what's next with what you do with the data, you're able to see exactly some of the questions the students got correct, some of the questions the students got incorrect. So as a tutor, you can analyze that pre-algebra data and say, wow, I have some work to be done and maybe some early mathematical concepts, maybe decimal operations, fraction operations. And in some cases, which we've seen quite a bit, you may want to then, after the students take the pre-algebra assessment, give them Adam. Because maybe there's some potential weaknesses in early math, you want to give them the Adam to get a little bit more, dive into their individual strengths and weaknesses. And the same thing goes with our algebra assessment. We look at individual constructs within math or within algebra, see what are some of the next steps. And as mentioned before, we do use Adam, DOMA pre-algebra as well as algebra, and also tie it into Khan Academy and show them their exact lessons that they should be working on or videos they should be working on.
Very cool. So as you guys are planning on growing and thinking bigger, have you guys thought of creating any other kinds of assessments?
Well, it's funny that you said that. So we do have some projects that we're currently working on, since this is a diagnostic assessment. And of course, as you mentioned, it does take a little while, and that's why it should be broken up into different days. So our next thing that we're working on the horizon is creating smaller assessments. So if instead of taking the entire DORA assessment, maybe you only need the sight word section. So being able to break up the assessments into smaller components or like benchmarks to help out and do mini testing.
Yes,
so that's on the horizon.
I love that idea, because sometimes it's like, okay, we know they already just need help in the decoding area. Now can we just give a decoding portion of the assessment so that we can see what their gains are without having to give the whole assessment? Brilliant.
On the
horizon. On the horizon. So don't be looking for that anytime soon. But stay tuned, right?
I will say one of the things that we actually launched today, if you go into the DORA page now, we added some additional information on that page. So now on the very right-hand side of the page, we've added the Lexile equivalency and the Lexile stretch equivalency. So if you do work with those measures, or if the school sites work with those measures, you're able to show off some of the equivalency reports as well. So that's
fantastic. That's fantastic, because I actually had somebody ask me, is there an assessment that us tutors can use? And I wasn't aware of one that did Lexiles except for like the AR one that they use in the schools. But that's like impossible to purchase as a tutor. It's so expensive.
Absolutely.
So I was not aware. So I'm so glad that you said that, because people have been asking that question. So yes, you will be able to get a Lexile based off of this assessment.
And on top of that, if you run the raw scores report, we do provide the Lexile stretch, reading and recovery. So we do have some other measures that are equivalency based that you can actually pull up that in case you report those. So definitely check those out. Or if not, we can always point you to the right direction.
All right. Sounds good. Cool. And so if we want to be able to get in contact with you guys, what is the best way to get in contact with you?
Definitely. So definitely check us out at www.letsgolearn.com. And from there, as a tutor, you can either purchase individual assessments. Maybe you're just starting off. But the one thing that I like to advocate for as far as tutoring companies is that we also have these things called assessment packs. And in the assessment packs, you're able to buy a bulk number of assessments. And think of them as kind of like a prepaid cell phone minutes. As soon as you use one, it goes down by a number. But it's a very cost-effective way to, as you start up your tutoring companies or established tutoring companies as well, to have a great testing component that's available at your disposal immediately.
Awesome. And I am going to be giving away the very next set of free package. So our very next one is going to go to Antoinette. Congratulations, Antoinette. Woo! Give you a round of applause. Awesome. So we've got Stina, we've got Antoinette, and let's see, who else would like a free pack? If we don't give them away, if you don't comment, I can't give it away, man. Can't give it away. But I will be able to give it away later on. So,
That's
but
true.
if I know who's on here, I can give it away to you. So all you have to do is just push comment, and we will send it on off to you. So I'm so excited that you were able to join us today, Aaron. Share a little bit more about Let's Go Learn and the different assessments that you guys offer, and the different ways that we can integrate it with schools. We can integrate it with coming up with individualized plans. It's a very useful tool. And I just want to give you guys one last shout out. Congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
On being the big winner of the Best Resource Award. Woo! Awesome. Well, thanks again so much. And everybody enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.